What's going on, Colts Nation? I appreciate you joining me for another video where today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the updates coming from today, some things that have happened. First of all, first news that came out, and I don't know if it was a surprise to you guys, if you've heard already. If you haven't, the Colts have been flexed into primetime against the Vikings in Week 9, going back to Minnesota. The first time we're playing Minnesota in, ironically, somehow going back to Minnesota, where the last time we were there was 2022, which was an incredibly terrible season to be a Colts fan. I'm sure to be a Colts player as well, only winning 4 games. But going into that Minnesota game with Jeff Saturday, if I'm not mistaken, we had just played the Raiders the week before and won in Jeff Saturday's first game. I think that's how it was. I might be wrong there. But nonetheless, of course, that's the 33-0 game that we end up losing, 39-36. So going back to Minnesota, it will be in prime time. I think it was supposed to be the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars and somebody else. I saw somebody that made a good point where it probably should have been the Packers and Lions got flexed into to that spot, but I'm sure there are reasons, right? That's going to be a big time game when that happens. I'm sure for the NFC, it's probably going to be a Fox game and a game that they're going to want to have on their network, which is probably why that happened. But we do have 2 Sunday night football games all of a sudden. The Jets in MetLife Stadium, so both of them are going to be primetime games on the road, which has kind of been the biggest gripe of Jim Irsay. The biggest gripe of Colts fans is not getting primetime games at home. Right, I think the last one we got was the Jets a couple years ago. I think might have been a Thursday night game. And it was like when everybody was still getting a Thursday night game. So, and I think that was our only primetime game, I'm pretty sure. But whatever the case, no primetime games at home this year, but we do get flexed into primetime Week 9 against the Vikings. Hopefully a good game and something that's going to help that be a good game, right? And don't forget, we are 4-1 in our last 5. We've been winning games without some of our best players, including Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor, and DeForest Buckner. We got Anthony Richardson back this past week, had, an up and down game, did better in the second half and started to come along, knocking some of that rust off from missing a couple weeks, a week to work on things. He's, of course, not going to be perfect game to game, but hopefully see some improvement from AR in this upcoming game here against the Texans. And the last time AR was in Houston, he got us into a 14-0 lead very early in that game in that first quarter, and we were able to kind of dominate for the rest of that game. Obviously, C.J. Stroud and the Texans making plays near the end of that and getting some pass yards when we were playing prevent defense. They almost came back to win that one, but we shut them down. And Anthony Richardson, of course, unable to finish that game, but nonetheless, Anthony Richardson does have experience against this defense, and coming into this one, expect Anthony to come out and have a better showing. C.J. Stroud had like 86 yards and an interception. He had a worse game last week than Anthony Richardson did. So both these quarterbacks coming off of not great performances. Anthony Richardson, I think, totaled 185 yards, so about 100 more yards than C.J. Stroud. But nonetheless, both quarterbacks down performances coming back this week, and not only getting Anthony Richardson back now it sounds like we expect to have DeForest Buckner in. The way Coach made it sound was that DeForest Buckner is like almost for sure coming back, which I believe it was Stephen Holder who said just like a week or two ago that like, oh, if you expect DeForest Buckner to come back, right after week 7, then I think you're probably crazy. And here we are, just a couple weeks later, just like Michael Pittman was supposed to end up on the IR, right? And now here we are. DeForest Buckner sounds like he is definitely expected to be able to come back this week, and then Jonathan Taylor, he is also expected to come back this week. That is what Coach was saying. That one sounded more, maybe that's a little up in the air, but it does sound like DeForest Buckner, Jonathan Taylor, both coming back, which is going to be massive. Going to be massive with the way our secondary is right now. Jalen Jones, Samuel Womack, Kenny Moore, the way all the guys are playing right now in the secondary, I feel really good about that part of the defense. You get DeForest Buckner back, right? Tyquan Lewis still out. Of course, Samson Ebicom going to be out for the entire season with the Achilles tear. So it's not the complete rotation, But getting DeForest Buckner back is going to be massive for this football team. Massive for this football team, especially on the defensive side. And I saw an interesting stat, and I wish I could remember exactly what it is. It was from at Drop Balls Pod, CLU on Twitter. And we mentioned him a few times on channel, and it was him that said that the Colts are giving up 21.3 points per game, which is 12th in the NFL. So we're keeping the points down. We're giving up a bunch of yards, which is kind of what Gus Bradley's defense is predicated on. Is like bend, don't break, don't give up a bunch of points, and that's all good and well. It's just, at some point, there's some of these games where we can't stop the offense enough to stop them from getting a field goal at the end of the game, which is really when you talk about NFL games being one-score games. So many of these games in the NFL being one-score games, no matter how good or bad a team is perceived to be, at the end of the day, that those field goals add up, which is really a lot of what we talk about, right? Giving up all those yards in the time of possession and staying on the field. It just adds up over time, right? It's not the greatest philosophy in the world, but it's one that sort of works for the Colts. Again, 21.3 points per game given up is 12th in the NFL. I'm not going to lie, I was shocked when I saw that. I thought it'd be lower. Obviously, there are some really good defenses in the NFL that are keeping other teams in the teens. But I think for what it is, 21.3, not bad, right? We have an offense that most weeks is going to figure out how to get to 20 points. Right, and it's been a little up and down, both with Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson, and it hasn't been perfect this season. But with Buck coming back, definitely going to help the defense. Of course, with Jonathan Taylor back, it's going to help the run game. And that's going to help everything else. The explosive plays down the field, like they're going to have to pay attention to. You saw Anthony Richardson when he came back. Like we talked about the Jonathan Taylor effect last week. You saw a little bit of that with Anthony Richardson and some of the stuff that he brings, defenders having to pay attention to him, and Trey Sermon able to sneak up and get 6 yards. So it's small things like that, those hidden yardage kind of things. With Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson in the backfield together, they're so much of a dynamic duo that it's going to help the pass game. It's going to help alleviate more pressure off of AR, and because people are going to have to respect what is Anthony Richardson as a runner and Jonathan Taylor as a runner, it's going to help open up the guys. We saw the Dolphins were all over our receivers this past week. It's not going to continue to be like that as long as these two guys are on the field together. So pretty massive updates today, getting both these guys expected to be back this week. Love that. Love getting these guys back. We're getting healthy. Again, 4-1 in our last 5. We started 0-2. We're 4-1 in our last 5. We're not playing perfect football over that span. We're still figuring it out. We got to get some guys healthy, and we're starting to get there. So that's great news. You let me know your thoughts on all this down in the comment section. Getting flexed into prime time. Great opportunity there. Great opportunity to be able to go and shock the world on Sunday Night Football. Everybody's going to be picking the Vikings. They already are. So get some guys healthy, and let's go and make some noise over these tough games, right? Beat Houston, and then go into Minnesota and beat Minnesota. That'd be great. So hopefully that's able to happen. And again, you let me know your thoughts on any of this down in the comment section. Love to hear from you guys. If anything, just tell me how you're doing, man. How you doing today? How you doing in life? How are things going? You let me know whatever it is down in the comment section. And of course, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you continue to get notified anytime we have any more content dropping on this channel, anytime we go live, which we will be doing every Sunday for the game. So with that, I appreciate you guys stopping by for another video. And as always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.